Get your finger off that dial. You do not want to miss episode 6 in studio with us, Garrett Baughn, expert home inspector. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home in the near future, you do not want to miss this.
Attention, Southern Nevadans. Turn up that dial for some real talk about the issues that matter to us. From some of our Valley's local leaders, business owners, and even the occasional elected official. Airing now on incredibly intelligent local radio stations and streaming worldwide at thenevadapatriot.com. Welcome to the Nevada Patriot Podcast with Matt Sadler.
Hey Pahrump, we have a great episode today and hopefully we learn a lot. In studio, I'm proud to have a lifelong friend, lifelong Southern Nevadan, and licensed home inspector, Garrett Baughn. Welcome to the Nevada Patriot Podcast show, Garrett.
Hey, thanks Matt. I appreciate you having me here and look forward to educating some people on home inspections.
Likewise, always willing to learn, always able, and I think we need to. So now, I'm not only your best friend, full disclosure to the listeners, but I consider myself a colleague of yours from my old real estate sales days. You were a go-to guy for me when my clients wanted an honest referral for a dependable home inspector, and you did not disappoint. You've even done home inspections for me personally, and I can sum it up to our audience with one key word: thorough. Tell us a little of your background, personal or business. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Well, I was born across the river in a little town called Bullhead City and quickly moved over to Las Vegas. I consider myself a native Las Vegan. Been here since I was 1 year old and just kind of grew up in the area. Then I got into my first real job was building materials. And I learned about selling them and how to build and what to do. And then I started getting into blueprints and ultimately got into construction, where I spent several years in that industry, worked my way into a partnership. And then the economy came and, those hard times back in 2008, 2009. And I had to look for something else to do. And home inspections is where I like to be.
Yeah, and it looks like you haven't looked back, and I think that's a good thing, right?
No, haven't looked back. It's been a true blessing. Helped me raise my daughter, helped me get her through college. The flexibility of being a single parent, that really was just what I needed at the time, and it's just continued to be that way. And now I've built it into a successful career.
Yeah. So as a Southern Nevadan, I would say native. You were here since you were a baby. I can't remember what I ate yesterday, let alone.
Hopefully, don't hate me because I've got a little Arizona in me.
Yeah, no, they're good in my book over there. So you're actually no stranger to Pahrump. So you actually lived here, and I remember in my real estate days, you were one of my first clients as your real estate agent. So tell the listeners that you're no stranger to our neck of the woods here.
Yep, that's true. And likewise, I think you were one of my earliest inspections, probably within the top 100 or so. Now, 8,000 inspections, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, and you bought a few houses, and we did a few inspections, and that keyword of thorough, that's a good touch. I definitely pride myself in picking out all those details to inform the client of what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, I would consider essential getting a home inspection. So in your words, why do you feel like it's essential to have a home inspection before buying a home?
Information, real estate agents, they're not going to tell you that this is broken or that's run down. Appraisers, they don't do the same thing. So it's important to have a qualified home inspector out there that can look at things, that understands things, and can tell you what's important and what's not. I think a lot of inspectors out there, they'll just kind of like throw out the blanket boiler states. Oh, this is wrong, and you need to get a qualified professional or a licensed contractor to look at it, and they kind of beat it to death. But I think having the background that I have is great because I know like this is important, that's not important,
right?
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. And when we talk about misconceptions, there's misconceptions out there. I think even being in the industry in real estate sales, like even fellow realtors, me, there's misconceptions even about appraisers, right? So there's a huge difference between what an appraiser does, for instance, and a home inspector.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Banks require appraisers to put the value on the property, but then banks don't require home inspectors to tell you if the place is falling over or not.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting thing. There's no state requirement for a home inspector. It's something where you're in due diligence and you need to figure out what's wrong, and that's where we come into play.
Right. So I know our area here in Pahrump is pretty unique when it comes to our our soil, our foundations, things like that. So what are, going along those lines too, what are some of those pitfalls that the average person, even an average person here in Nye County, can fall into when buying a home?
I think out here it's critical to have good foundations. I mean, just about anything, any home inspection, it's really important to have a good foundation. It's the building block of the entire structure. But out here, it's particularly important because of the soils. The soils are just so soft and they're so fine and sandy that poof dirt, that'll get you every time.
Yep.
And I remember years back when I kind of first got into it, a little bit before that, I remember always hearing about Pahrump dirt and how bad it was for settling. And I know that there were a lot of homes built back in the day that had improper excavation, and they didn't go down far enough, and sure enough, things were cracking. And I remember when we were looking, I had that first home out here that I bought, and man, we went to several homes, and I remember seeing walls that I could stick my hand into cracks, and it was just like, wow, there's a lot of structural stuff going on out here. But back then, I wasn't even a home inspector. I was in construction though, and I knew what I was looking at.
Because those don't get any better with age either, right?
No, they generally
start out
don't.
A little cosmetic thing, and it can just really spiral.
Yeah, exactly. And without having some sort of structural correction, those problems will pretty much just continue. And even if you don't have those problems, they can start from having things like poor drainage or other things.
Yeah, because we've had some issues there too recently with the rains, and I think a few neighbors and a few people that I knew here in town had some major issues with drainage. Their yards, damage to their homes now, and a few of them were not in a flood zone, so that could be pretty perilous. So it helps having a keen eye to spot those ahead of time.
Absolutely. And knowing the difference between what is a structural crack that's going to cause an issue and what isn't is super important. There's, like I say, there's some people out there and they see a crack and they want to call out a structural engineer, and it just kind of gets a little ridiculous at a certain point. I mean, a lot of the homes, they have stucco construction, and stucco is a cement-based product, and it's bound to crack. I mean, that's just part of what it does. But it's about the size of the crack, the length of the crack, the direction of the crack. All of that stuff really makes a difference. Believe me, I mean, most of the homes out here are on pretty decent foundations. They don't have a lot of cracks. I did a second company in Texas, and that Dallas-Fort Worth area, that's got cracks.
So you've got perspective, and that's also a good thing that you bring, is that you have done work. You've been in some different markets in your experience. You've dealt with some different areas, so you're pretty adept, I think, at seeing things that might not be falling into place for the prospective buyer, so that you could be that person that says, look, you're not there to destroy the deal or kill the deal, but at least to educate that prospective buyer on whether or not this is probably their biggest purchase, their biggest investment that most people will have.
Absolutely. My little slogan is protect it, inspect it, because it is one of those key investments. It's going to be your biggest investment over your life, and it's really important to know what you're getting and what could potentially happen with what you have, so that you can protect it, and so that you do know how to fix certain things and what certain things need to be addressed before they become a major issue.
Yeah. Can you think back in any recent inspections where, you don't have to be too specific with names or streets or anything, or neighborhoods, where you might have probably saved somebody some major heartache down the road by figuring out some stuff that might have been.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Just last week, I did an inspection for a guy out here, and he just didn't really know what he was getting into. He was moving here from Minnesota, and totally different climate, totally different construction methods. Everything was different. Yeah. And, it was just a really run down, dilapidated sort of place. And, I can't come out and say, hey, you can't buy this, you shouldn't buy this. But I can definitely tell you all of these things are wrong, laundry list those items, and give you a pretty good idea. And ultimately, he ended up walking away from that one. And I just finished up another home inspection for him today on a property that's much better looking.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think with the market, I won't say it's cooled off completely, but having houses sitting a little bit longer, giving some buyers a little more leeway and a little more choice out there and a little more time, I think it's paramount.
Yes.
That a home inspector like yourself can advise them through the process, can set up some flags if there's something inherently wrong, because they don't have these minutes or hours to decide, I'm throwing in an offer sight unseen, I have to get this house, and let the chips fall where they may. They can make a little more educated decision, and that's where I think a lot of your expertise can help.
Yes, that comes into play. I think there's a lot of people, everybody knows a little about a lot, but not a lot know about a little, kind of thing. So it comes down to that. So it's one of those things where you may be sight unseen, you may be coming here from a different town, you may not know what you're in for, and we as inspectors should know those things and be able to educate the client on what they're facing and what the true condition of the property is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of things that you do, and I know on my inspections on homes that I've bought that you helped me with in your inspection, what I found helpful was that your reports are very elaborate, and some people might say some of the things are superficial, but it's awesome that you can refer back to these reports and have a little, list of the things that I need to do as the homeowner that were on that list.
Agreed.
That I could go ahead and knock down over, months or maybe even years into the future. You can, address those things. It wasn't enough to make me not want to buy the house, but I knew that these were issues that I could eventually, knock out.
Yeah, making a honey-do list, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, there's things that are definitely critical, structural stuff, roof stuff, and there's things that aren't so critical, like a door rub or a door that's not latching or caulking. But yeah, I'll tell you, I always joke I'm a caulk monster, because I will go around and pick out caulking in the most particular place, because that absence of that $8 tube of caulking is now costing you thousands of dollars in mold damage because you didn't caulk it.
Yeah.
So, knowing
Ounce
the difference.
Prevention.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely worth that pound a cure. But those things, they come up, and it's important to distinguish between them and understand what is actually important and be able to explain to people too, I might put out a report with, 60 things wrong on them. On average, I'm probably 30 things wrong on them. And I've never had a perfect home over 12 years of doing this, 8,000 inspections. I have never had a perfect house.
Yeah.
So there's always something wrong, and that's new construction all the way through to 1928 is the oldest I have. So
yeah, that's an important note because I had you look. I bought a new construction home here in Pahrump when I moved out here, or when our family moved out here, almost 3.5 years ago. And I think that even as a realtor, you have this sense of security that, the new home's going to be perfect, but it's not always the case. So we have homes getting built out here. Different developers are paying more attention to Pahrump. So yeah, folks, it's important even on new construction. The sales guy at the sales office isn't going to steer you toward a home inspector. They don't really always want that.
Hardly. As a matter of fact, it's interesting you say that. The builders will set certain insurance requirements that make it almost impossible for home inspectors to inspect. So like state requirements are $100,000 general liability policy and errors and omissions, and they'll set it at, you need $1 million policy in order to come out here. I had one of them try to tell me I needed $1 million auto policy. I'm like, I'm not a subcontractor. I'm not driving vehicles around your building. Okay. I'm coming to do a job. It's just me and my little pouch. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to get this done. But, I do carry $1 million coverage just because I do some bigger homes and I do some fourplex multifamily structures and I even do some commercial stuff. So I do have that $1 million policy, and it's come in handy. But I'm not going to carry $1 million auto insurance policy. But
that's a little ridiculous.
They try to require that stuff, and it's interesting because the thing is they go and they build it, and then they give you a 1-year warranty. Everything's all included. Well, that's great. You get the keys. I'll come out and inspect it. Don't need insurance requirements anymore because you now own the property.
That's a good point. So that first year, if you don't do it in the build process, get that inspection in that first year.
For sure. Yeah, I have some people who, particularly when I get to talk to them on the buyer side, they buy on the front end and it's a new house. I just remind them, hey, have me come back out. I give a price break because it's a newer home. Right. I'll come back out. I'll re-inspect it at 11 months and 15 days. And then you turn around and say, hey, this is wrong and that's wrong and they'll fix that up. I did. There's a development in Vegas where I'm in there for the 4th time in the past 2 weeks. And, I find something different on every single one of them. It's kind of funny.
That could be the best investment that the homeowner makes in that first year.
It is.
Get that builder on the hook because otherwise year 2 comes and you are on your own.
Yeah. Right after they get out of that year, there's a lot of things that drop off. I mean, the only thing that they really need to cover longer term is the structure itself. Mm-hmm. They do have structural warranties that used to be 10 years back in the day. And now it's just 6 years. And then the builder's pretty much scot-free from that warranty. But you get those cracks and you're kind of wondering like, hey, is this an issue or is this not an issue? And that's what we're out there to tell you. It is or it isn't.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go to a break real fast from the Nevada Patriot podcast with Matt Sadler. We're going to come back in studio with Garrett Baughn, expert. And that's actually my opinion, expert home inspector, but he is.
No official title there.
Yeah, I'd say after your first couple thousand inspections, you'd be an expert, and you're like 4 times that amount. So expert it is. But thank you for sticking with us. We'll be back in about 60 seconds. Hey Pahrump, it's Matt Sadler here. Tune into FM 97.7 KPFF every Saturday at 6 p.m. for real talk and real conversations about the things that matter. The Nevada Patriot podcast with Matt Sadler will feature topics and conversations with business leaders, faith-based leaders, elected officials, political candidates, and important issues that are changing our society forever. You don't want to miss an episode. You'll be able to catch replays of our show throughout the week at 4 p.m., streaming worldwide at godfather.media. If you have suggestions for topics or you're a business looking for acknowledgement opportunities during our show, call the station toll-free at 1-877-PAHRUMP. Until the next episode, Nevada Patriots, God bless. And we are back. Thank you for sticking with us here at the Nevada Patriot podcast with Matt Sadler. Back with us is Garrett Baughn. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this one. I don't know why I didn't ask you earlier, but what is covered on your typical home inspection?
So, home inspections are generally non-invasive visual inspections to report on the important characteristics of a building, the major building components, the foundation, site drainage, as we've already kind of talked about.
Yep.
And then roof structures, and then equipment identification too. That's always important. Knowing how old your AC unit is it near the end of life, which we don't actually determine life expectancy, but we at least tell you, hey, this thing's 26 years old, and it may be close.
Yeah.
Or a water heater. Water heater's 12 years old. That kind of stuff we want to point out. And then we go through things, doors, windows, cabinets, all of that stuff. Not really doing anything cosmetic. We're not looking for torn carpets or, little holes in the wall from a doorknob. That's not really what we're there for. We're there to tell you what's falling down and dilapidated.
Or if your buyer's like, I don't like, why didn't you tell me it was periwinkle blue in the kids' room? I hate that color.
That's not me. I'm not telling you about wallpaper.
Yep. So on the opposite end of that vein, what's your favorite part of being a home inspector?
Definitely it's educating people, sharing skills and vast knowledge on all of the products and all of the pitfalls and those things that can come back and bite you. I think one of the things when I got into it, I had bought a home already. I had bought 2 homes actually. And the second home, I was talking to the inspector about some really simple electrical stuff. And the guy just didn't know what he was talking about. He wasn't even from building materials or construction or anything. And he couldn't answer the simplest inspection question about electrical. And that's what kind of, once I got out of the construction industry, I really just thought that, hey, I should take all this knowledge and help people, educate them, and, just inform the buyer about what they're getting into.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that sense, your experience beforehand kind of makes it a little easier for you to educate the home buyer.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's important. It's all about experience, education, and how you've progressed, I think, is important. Like when I got into this, I started working with one of the really old first inspectors in Nevada. I mean, his license number was down in the 30s.
Wow.
Yeah. So, for example, then in 2009, when I got my license, it was 1,500 and something. So, it's been a long way since I'd been in starting business. But there's things that come with those old guys too. They're in old ways. They're on old codes. They're on old building standards. And like some of the stuff I'd point out to them and it'd be like, nah, I don't care. Like, wait. I mean, come on. Like this garage door does need some reversing sensors before it cuts somebody in half. He'd be like, nah, not really.
Kind of important.
They didn't need that when I learned how to do it. That's kind of the way that one went.
Yeah.
But, he showed me how to be real, though, and how to, identify the important things in an inspection. And I think that was critical. Some of these, green inspectors, they come out and they're going to nitpick everything, but they don't exactly know why they're nitpicking everything. Yeah. Like, they're just picking it apart. And then you see 150 problems and 180 of them call for a structural engineer because they've got these disclaimers that say structural engineers. So it's just like, it gets a little crazy. So it's important just to know what you're getting and have that experience and that knowledge and sort of a wealth bank of things going on.
Yeah, and I know all your clients are not going to be grouped into one bag. Everybody's an individual. Some people are really like tech savvy. They want the latest and greatest types of services from everybody that they patronize. How have you? Well, I noticed real quick when I did my first inspection with you that you were kind of out the gate, kind of like setting the bar with some of the technology that you had incorporated into your reports and things. So how have you adapted technology to your business?
Yeah, when I got into it, I remember they taught us in the class, which you need to take for certification, they taught us on paper, and it was a paper inspection report. It was like 30 pages long, and just a bunch of check marks made in like an Excel file. And they're like, well, here, you can use this for your inspections. And there are some softwares out there, and I was fortunate enough to get on with one of the biggest software companies that does home inspections. And that's been a blessing. I mean, I paid them on the front end, and I haven't really had to pay them since. Now they charge a monthly fee. So nice. It's been nice. That technology is good because everything's digital. It's all right there. It's emailed over. You have a link to it. You go into it, and it's there. You can print it. You can save it. You can forward it to your loved ones if they want to see your house. Or you can just leave it alone, and it stays there for 5 years. It's stored online. So even if you had to get out of the house in 3 or 4 years and you're like, oh, what didn't I fix, or what should I get ready for when I'm selling the house? You can go back to that inspection, and that's really valuable in being there, rather than, oh, where'd I store that paper report that I used for firewood on a cold night.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And then there's other things too. Back in the day, I had a little pouch with just a couple of items, an electrical tester and a screwdriver and a flashlight, I think is about all I had. And then got more technologically advanced and picked up thermal imaging so that I could tell, when I'm seeing wet walls, are they truly wet? Is this really something that's important? Ceiling stains, the same kind of stuff. And then also for testing air conditioners and heating, it's important to know, the temperature differentials and kind of be able to tell what's working and how that stuff kind of goes. So that's definitely important. Some of the technological stuff, some people are going towards drones and things like that. And, if you want an airplane pilot to inspect your house, go ahead. But I don't want an inspector to fly me to Florida, that's for sure. So I specialize in what I do. If it's a 1-story home, I'm definitely walking it. If it's a 2-story home, I'm trying to find a way to get on it. So I would prefer to put feet down on those tiles. I know how to walk a roof and do it safely.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to see that stuff.
Damage your roof, right?
Yeah, for sure. I've trained a couple of guys, and I'm walking around with them, and all of a sudden I just hear a crack and a stumble, and then that stumble turns into more broken tiles, and no. You got to step here, and you got to walk gingerly, and all that stuff. So that's all really important. But the drones are good. I mean, it's a technological advancement that maybe one day, if I got some time, I'll learn to be an airplane pilot. But at this point in time, it's really about looking at it with my eyes. And even if not, 8,000 homes, I can see things from the ground that most people can't. And nowadays, phones are so technologically advanced. My phone's got like 100% zoom. Like I can zoom on something from 10 houses down the street and see it better than I would with a drone.
Yeah. And I forgot to ask you about this. Your business might be changing a bit. I don't know if it does, because in real estate, obviously, you have the ebbs and flows, buyer's market, seller's market, nice equilibrium markets. Right now, it seems to be, we're kind of heading more toward a buyer's market where sellers are kind of going to have to up their game a bit when they go to sell their properties. So how does that fall in line with, most folks think about when you're purchasing a home, get the home inspection. Can you tell our listeners how it might be important for a seller to have a pre-listing type inspection done so that they can make their home more marketable, sell faster for the price that they're looking to get?
Yeah, for sure. We do offer pre-listing home inspections. They're a little bit different. I try to keep it basic and really just kind of get in there and give you the nitty gritty. Like, I don't need to tell you how old your AC and your water heater are. You pretty much know already, hopefully from that first home inspection.
Right.
But, the other stuff like, hey, you didn't know that this was leaking below the sink, or you didn't know that there was corrosion at these valves, where when you go to move out and you pull all that stuff out of your sink below, oh, now you caused a leak. That kind of stuff. Those things are important to know, and to just kind of circumvent the process. Like, people are looking for ease. They're looking to get in there, get the transaction done as smooth as possible.
Right.
And if you got somebody like me coming in on the back end and I'm picking apart 80 things and telling you, hey, all this stuff needs to be fixed, or an inexperienced agent that's telling you all of these things need to be fixed, that really makes a deal very difficult to get through, because then you're back and forth on it, and that's just a tough spot to be. So, I come out there, I do a pre-inspection service, a pre-listing service, and I just kind of tell you, hey, these are the big things. This is what you really need to take care of so that you don't have any questions come up. And these are the things, I'm still going to do the full inspection. I'm still going to tell you that caulking's missing at that baseboard. But those aren't things that you necessarily have to do to sell a home. It's an interesting market right now, though, because the way it's going is it is becoming a seller's market, and people need to understand you've made good money as the seller. You've made good money on your investment. Like, you bought at the right time, and now you're making a bunch of money, and these people are coming in and they may be scraping by. They may not even have had a down. Like, there's all sorts of interest plans out there that you don't really know what their situation is. So you got to kind of give a little bit. Whenever the market goes up like this and it's at the higher end, that's the time to invest in the home for the longevity of the home. I think that's really important. And people don't recognize that, they just, oh no, I could sell it to somebody else and that inspector won't be so picky. And no, that's not really the case. We are pretty much governed by a certain set of standards, and we should all be picking up relatively the same thing. So that being said, just circumventing that whole process, knowing what you have and what should be fixed and what needs to be fixed to make the transaction smooth. The rest of it, hey, you just take care of this stuff. This is what it is to own a home. You got to maintain things.
Yeah. So what would you tell our listeners to look, what would you tell them to look for when hiring an inspector?
I think it's important when you're hiring an inspector is to know who you're getting. I know that I'm by myself. I'm a sole man. I go and I do my own inspections. I don't have anybody working below me. I do have a nice lady that helps me with accounting stuff, just to kind of take that off my plate. But other than that, like, it's me. You call me and I'm going to be the one out there doing the inspection. There's some pretty big firms in the area where, it's one guy sitting at the top and he's got all these green guys that he picked up out of the inspection school. Right. And he's sending them out, and sure, he's overlooking their inspection report, but they don't have the eyes. Yeah. And if you don't have the eyes and the experience to know this is a problem, this isn't a problem, that's huge. That's huge, because you're going to go and you're just going to say everything's wrong. And you're just going to kill a deal. Yeah. And, we're not trying to kill deals. We're just trying to educate people so that they don't make a bad investment, or, they need to understand that everything is negotiable, so anything, no matter how run down, if it's at the right price, if you're getting the cost of repairs put in there, then, you're good. Like, nothing is walk away. I've never told anybody walk away from this. This is just so bad, it can't be fixed. No, it can be fixed. It might take $100,000, but it can be fixed, and that's where they need to know. So I think that's important, distinguishing on who you're getting when you call a home inspection company. Is it going to be you who does the inspection, or is it, do you work with other people? That's probably one of the biggest questions. How many years experience do you have? That's another one, because there's plenty of lone wolves like me. There's plenty of people out there just starting up, but they're just starting up, and again, they don't have that critical knowledge and that history to know what is and isn't a problem. So those are probably the two biggest things, really.
Yeah, definitely. So how can folks get a hold of you? What's the easiest way? What's the best way to get a hold of you for Pahrump area clients? Well, in particular,
my phone is always on. I pretty much don't ever shut it off. There's few rare exceptions where I'm in church and I might have it on silent, but
same here.
Besides that, you can always text me. 775-419-6885 is my direct text number. You can call me. I'd like the good old phone calls. I don't always have to have a text. But that, or you can go and you can check out my website too at lasvegasinspector.com. That's LasVegasInspector.com. Kind of easy to remember. I don't have ParumpInspector.com, but I might work on that.
Yeah. Yep, never too late.
Right? So, so that being said, you can text me, you can call me anytime, and you can go to the website. There's a simple form on there where you just put in a couple of details, some information about the house, and it'll pretty much kind of give you a rundown. The fees are out there too. If you want to know what kind of fees you're looking at for the inspection, those are on there. And then there's some little videos. There's contract sample. There's an inspection report sample. So those are all out there. It's good knowledge.
Well, thank you, Garrett. I really appreciate you coming by and educating our listeners, educating me. Thank you so much, Garrett. This is, again, Garrett Baughn. You could reach him at 775-419-6885, like you said, calling or texting 775-419-6885. We want to thank our listeners so much for sticking by the Nevada Patriot podcast with Matt Sadler. Until next time, God bless.
God bless.
You've just spent some of the best minutes of your life hanging out with Matt Sadler at the Nevada Patriot Podcast. Thank you for listening. Tell a friend and join us next time. After you catch your breath, check out the NevadaPatriot.com for more content, advertising opportunities, and to give listener feedback. That website again is the NevadaPatriot.com. Until next time, Patriots, stay American.